The summer season of anime is upon us, and we have a boatload of amazing series, new and returning, coming to us in July. And my lord, is it a stacked season. Spring was pretty stacked as well, but this one has a lot of sequels right baked into it, and I'm basically going to be watching almost every single show in that season that I know of, and even some that are being hyped up or seem interesting. But one of the series that I'm excited to see the most is the official anime debut for Gachiakuta. And this manga is something that I've talked about on the channel a few times. I even talked about it on my weekly podcast, Shonen Pulse, over the Panel Focus YouTube channel, links in the description and title card, where there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the manga every single week. But with the anime coming out, we are going to be getting a bunch of fresh eyes on this series. Now, for about a year now, people have been slowly getting news of Gachiakuta, with the official English volume releases coming out little by little. Right now we have 6 volumes at the point of recording. By the time the anime comes out, we will have volume 7 out. The fanbase has grown little by little, only for Anime Expo of 2024 to give us the official announcement that we are going to be getting Gachiakuta's anime adapted by Studio Bones, or should I say Bones Films, and it's coming out right now in July. And as the time went on, we were all waiting for an official trailer. And we got that trailer back in the early winter of 2025. And man, was this trailer phenomenal. So much love and care went into it, from not just the animation that was showcased it, but how we had specific imagery and ways we had images just flashed in our faces that give off the same vibe, energy, and just style that Keorana's art gives from the manga. It just feels like the manga really does come to life. The character designs look on point, the coloring looks phenomenal, and the soundtrack from that one trailer really gets you hyped up. And so people automatically were hyping up Gachiakuta. More and more people were trying to get onto the manga. Now, really quick, for those of you that are wanting to get into the manga, legally, you have to read it on K-Manga, which is an app which you cannot screenshot or record the actual website/app, alongside the fact that it is a daily login ticket system with points that you spend actual money in order to get the chapter, in order to read it for over and over again, but you can't download the chapter, and it's expensive, and it's just not worth it. A lot of people just end up reading it illegally. But despite that, the manga is up to date every Tuesday with new chapters. So people are getting excited for the new Gachiakuta chapters, and now getting even more excited for the anime. And Gachiakuta is in a stacked season, like I mentioned at the beginning, with all these different seasons that are coming out. We got Dress Up Darling, Dandadan Season 2, we got Kaiju Number 8 Season 2, Call of the Night Season 2, Shield Hero Season 4 is coming out, second half of Sakamoto Days, the second part of Dr. Stone's final season. We have a lot of shows that I'm not going to just say in this video, but still, Gachiakuta has a lot of competition right now in the summer, and it leads to the possibility of it getting kind of drowned out by the hype of all these returning series that are coming back. Heck, Grand Blue is getting a season 2. That is an anime that hasn't had a second season for a long time. I haven't even had a chance to watch it, and people have recommended it to me so often. That's besides the point. Gachiakuta has a lot that it needs to succeed already, but the big thing is the attention span of the viewer. As much as I hate to say it, we live in an era where unless you captivate the audience from episode 1, or in a very shonen, battle shonen centric community, the series won't be actively talked about unless it either A, has action every 2 episodes or so, or has some sort of controversy that gets people to talk about it constantly for a couple of weeks in order to get, and then people check it out and end up either enjoying it or hating it. And that's kind of what happened with Dandadan to an extent, but that's a discussion for a whole other time. Gachiakuta does have a good hook with its first chapter, with the illusions of what happens to Ruto in the first chapter, the subtle world building. Episode 1 is going to be a good first chapter to get people interested in the series. But there isn't a lot of action in the opening chapters. So the opening episodes aren't going to be full of action sequences. There's going to be a few, but nothing against actual human beings fighting against each other for a little bit. which is kind of why we get the buildup of more people with these special abilities throughout the manga. We essentially fight mindless monsters for the opening sections of the story, and we get introduced to the characters in the world. And Gachiakuta, being a weekly shonen magazine manga, doesn't have the inevitable threat of the axe that is in Weekly Shonen Jump primarily, since that is an incredibly strict magazine. But Weekly Shonen Magazine lets their authors give a little bit of breathing room for their series. So Gachiakuta, like many other series like Shangri-La Frontier, To Your Eternity, to an extent Fire Force, and For Nuts the Apocalypse, let the author essentially have a bit of time to flesh things out a bit more and not get right into things and have to fill in the gaps slowly right afterwards. And with a slower pace in comparison to some other big shonen action series, it will essentially test some attention spans for people that just want high-octane actions on a regular basis. And Gachiakuta does have that, but it's a little bit further on, towards the first half of the anime, depending on how many episodes it has. We still have no idea how many episodes Season 1 is going to have. But since Gachiakuta is a battle shonen, the action is going to be what's on everybody's radar. And if it doesn't captivate a lot of audiences, it's definitely not going to be talked about as much as it should be. Now, there is a good enough hook. In Gachiakuta, more so than it is a battle shonen, it's a psychological mystery series, which is something that not a lot of weekly shonen manga tend to be, outside of it being sprinkled throughout for certain character arcs. Gachiakuta ends up delving into characters' psyches, their relationship with others, how they deal with certain situations, their emotions, personal issues and relationships, and even dealing with traumatic instances and mental breaks sometimes. But the main draw of Gachiakuta, aside from its characters, is really the overarching mysteries of the series, which every arc builds upon itself, giving you some few answers while also building upon it and making you question things with more questions, and gives you enough evidence for you to try and piece the wider mysteries together while leaving room for more evidence to be piled upon you. Gachiakuta's main draw is not just its characters. The action, while great, is not its true main draw. It's the world building and its mysteries that you yourself want to figure out alongside the characters. What's so special about Rudo? What's so special about the Watchmen series? How is this world the way it is? What are the trash beasts? What is the sphere? What is the abyss? All of these different questions are constantly presented to you with bits of information that gather throughout the story that you yourself are putting together and come to massive realizations. And there is enough missing that you crave more. And Kei Urana knows this. She is great at building the story. She gives us great twists from time to time. Like back-to-back arcs, we've had multiple massive twists in the manga that reshape how we view the series up until this point. Characters being reintroduced and brought back in different ways, having their stories explored more and having them develop alongside the main cast, while also somewhat delving into what the wider mysteries of the world can in fact be. Wider conspiracies, true goals of other characters. These are the main draws of Gachiakuta. And I am afraid that people who are mostly in it for the action are going to drop it or not pay attention to these subtle moments, the mystery, the characters. That's kind of my main worry. I know I'm sounding like a elitist, I guess, when I talk about it like that, but if anything from the, let's say the anime world or online anime discourse, most of the people that make the loudest noise are the ones that want aura farming, high octane action, and just god-tier animation for everything all the time. And while I am happy when a series gets a good adaptation, in comparison to a series that has a subpar or bad adaptation, I do prefer to have the series be engaging outside of its action sequences. That's why a lot of my favorite series aren't only about the fights, and that's why a lot of series, for the most part, tend to be memorable outside the fights. You don't go to One Piece mainly for the fights, you go to One Piece for the wider world building, the characters, and the mysteries. You don't just go to Bleach and Naruto for the fights, you're in it for the characters and exploring the wider world and its themes and messages. My Hero Academia, the meaning of what it means to be a hero. Black Clover, an underdog story exploring the world and having this one person that seems to come from nothing rise to the top and work his damn ass off to get as strong as possible for people to respect him and break through the obvious classism of his world and kingdom, so he can reach the top position and gain everyone's respect and make things better for others. And it goes on and on. A lot of the big shonen stories aren't just action sequences, they have their own themes and messages within them, or other things that make them what they are, like wider mysteries that will eventually give into the wider themes of the story. Like Gachiakuta, one of its main themes is that nothing is worthless. Trash isn't just one and done. You could also say one man's trash, another man's treasure in regard to Rudo, quite literally in that aspect, but that's me just scratching the surface level. If there's anything that you want to get from this video, it's that Gachiakuta deserves an honest-to-God chance. Because while we have some hype for this anime, I am afraid that people that aren't going into it for the wider world building and mysteries are just going to try and go into it with the fights and be disappointed when there's not an insane action sequence or god-tier animation sequence every other episode. It just feels like they will misjudge the series for what it is. And as a fan of the manga of Keo Rana's work, I really do hope that when the series starts, from episode 1 to when the season ends, it is given a proper chance and people don't just go into it looking for great fights, but for a series that makes you question everything you're watching and piecing things together. Gachiakuta could be the most popular and the most talked about anime of summer 2025, and if enough people talk about it, could be a contender for anime of the year. It has that much potential as an anime, and the story itself is well worth your while. And if I haven't said it already, go read the manga too. It's a great read. Keo Rana's art style is like nothing you've ever seen before, and has that type of energy that you just can't put it down and want to keep reading even more. But here's hoping that the anime gets enough attention and eyes on it, and that everyone enjoys it, and that the adaptation is as great as it deserves. But what do you guys think? Do you think Gachiakuta will be one of the standouts or the best anime of July 2025 and most talked about? Or do you think all the other hype returning shows will kind of drown it out due to the loudness of other fan bases? Let me know. And let me know if you're a fan of the manga right now and if you're caught up with it right now, or if you're just going by the official volume releases. I have no idea when this video is going to end up coming out, but I do plan to make a few Gachiakuta videos leading up to and during the release of the anime to kind of build up some hype for it and answer some questions that people might have once the anime comes out. And who knows, if these videos end up doing well, maybe I'll cover the manga for Gachiakuta as well. But if you want to see somebody that covers the manga for Gachiakuta on a weekly basis outside of my weekly manga podcast, Shonen Pulse on Panel Focus, with me, Nox, Yadogami, and Papa Trophy talking about all things manga, I would highly recommend Domo Senpai, who has been reviewing Gachiakuta for a good while now for its manga, and he is criminally underrated and one of the few people that is talking about this manga on a weekly basis. So if you love the series, go and check him out. And with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates for when I upload next. And with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.